Welcome to Legacy Unscripted, the podcast where sports and business collide. I'm your host, Russ Katzman, and here we skip the fluff and we'll get straight to the hustle. From athletes turned entrepreneurs to impact-driven business leaders, we dive into the wins, the lessons, and the failures that make legacies worth living. No scripts, no filters, just raw, real conversations to inspire you to stop dreaming about your legacy and to start living it. Now let's get into it. Today we welcome Cameron Irvine from Simulated Football League. Cameron, talk to us about who you are and why you're here.
Hi, Russ. Thanks for having me. I'm Cameron Irvine. I have worked in sports media my entire life. My first job at 16 years old was covering Texas high school football for the San Antonio Express News. So I don't know what it's like to flip a burger, but I do know what it's like to live in the sports media space. As you might guess, I typically work a 3 to midnight shift. Everything is about sports all the time for me. And I started my company, as a hobby, pre-COVID, something that I thought was needed in the space because, it got exhausting getting beat by people online and family members, friends who just wanted to run the same play over and over and over again. I wanted something that was a little bit more respectful to the game we all love, American football. And so I started it as a hobby to just say, hey, what if we took the controller out of people's hands and made it more chess-like than maybe meta-like. So we did that, and then post COVID, I got out of my sports media space. I had kind of been all over the map in that area, and decided this was the time and the moment to really focus on this as a business and take this full time. And we've been at it ever since. So that's how I ended up here, Russ.
So I think, honestly, Cameron, I think you're living every young boy's dream to be running his own football league, but not only running your own football league, but doing it through video games, right? This isn't your typical player versus player type of setup, right? You've got entire teams. Talk to us about that setup and the complications that come with it.
Yeah, it's amazing, the evolution. When we started, it was just me and 7 guys who didn't want me to quit on the dream. I had to shelve it in college. I needed to graduate, focus on my studies and all that. And they said, hey, after you're done, right, after you've graduated, come back, because we really want to keep doing this. And so, we started with 7 guys, and they were just kind of doing everything and being the owners and the coaches and the players and doing all that fun stuff. And then as more people got involved, as more people heard about us, it started to fraction off, and people started to be, just a player, just a general manager, just a scout, just a coach, just a uniform designer, just a writer, anything you can think of. That's what people have evolved into. And now, in one league, we've got 25 teams run by a ton of staff. And in another league, we're launching, that has 32 teams that's sort of run by the league, more of a league-owned model. So, its evolution is quite alarming. I don't think I anticipated exactly how it would go. And there's certainly been, a lot of ups and downs and the roller coaster of business along the way. So, yes, every boy's dream, but at some point I had to man up and start to figure out, what a Schedule C is and what was going on the business side of things, trying to make sure that me and my family were going to be all right doing this.
And so a number of questions come out of that. First of all, when you had this dream, obviously it was one that you kind of started in college and you had to put it on the shelf for a little while. Talk to me a little bit about that process, because I have several clients that I've coached before that I've seen them kind of take things and put them aside, and they're just heartbroken in doing so. And I will tell them, look, don't lose the dream, right? There's a reason that you have that. Yes, you need to do this to make money or to get through college or whatever it is that you're shelving it for. But don't lose that dream. If it's important to you, just keep plugging along, and over time you'll come back to being able to do that full time. What did that mean to you to be able to come back to it?
Yeah, I think I was so young and didn't understand what I had or what was going on, that at the time I just remember just feeling incredibly
Mm,
overwhelmed. I felt like I didn't have the help. I felt like I didn't have the support. It was a lot of, taking from me, but not giving anything in return. And you didn't know how to ask for things, and the self-worth wasn't there enough to say to people, hey, I need your help because this is going to be big, and I can't do this alone, right? And so you think, well, why would anybody want to help me,
right.
right? And so you go from, well, why would anybody want to help me, to, hey, I need some help. You should be lining up to do this, right? Because that's the difference between low self worth and high self worth. So I think at the time it was more of a relief, and then more of a just kind of an overwhelming feeling like, wow, you guys are pushing me to come back
Yeah.
and do this, and that was sort of the very first semblance of, maybe this is something more than just something that we all do randomly,
Yeah.
3 times a week.
So, other than your buddies over a couple of beers telling you to come back, who was truly instrumental in kind of pushing you and giving you that support to get back to it?
Well, I think the first guy that came to mind is Kyle Walsh. He was a member of the league, and a good friend from Florida, and he kind of he kept encouraging me and kept helped me out with rule sets. I remember being there was a wide ditch outside of our little apartment just off the campus of college, and I would pace that
Mm,
ditch for hours on end, coming up with rule sets and how things were going to work, and all those type of things. And over the years, I've had a lot of those conversations. Maybe not necessarily in ditches, but pacing around my front yard, and pacing around a hotel lobby while I'm at a convention, meeting and networking and just things like that, right? And so that was big. And unfortunately, Kyle's not a part of things anymore. We as the league expanded, we got bigger. We wanted to change course. We wanted to be more, customer
sure.
focused, or I guess more inclusive. And Kyle missed the old days of it just being, me and him, and two buddies just getting to talk about the league and all that stuff. And so, they always say it's not about who you start with, but or the people. What do they say, Russ? The people that you start with are not the people that you finish with, that kind of stuff. But Kyle was a good friend, that really helped it all get started. So.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point because the purpose behind this podcast and Legacy Unscripted is that we all have an idea of kind of that mark we want to make at some point, right? We have an idea of what we want our legacy to be, but we design it the way we think it's going to go, and it doesn't always go that way. And we run into issues, and we'll talk about some of those. We run into issues and speed bumps and obstacles and forks in the road and all those kind of things that change our path. And ultimately, we become a better person. We create better organizations. We improve more lives, etc. All because we did have those forks in the road. We did have those speed bumps. We did have those things that took us to a place where we thought we didn't really realize we needed to go, but we did ultimately. Same thing goes for those people that help us along the way, right? And there's ones that help us originally, help us get started, help us get that boost, and they don't necessarily they're not necessarily the same ones that we need 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later, as we evolve, as the business evolves, and others come into our life. So, good lesson. I like it. So, talk to me a little bit
Yeah,
then,
no doubt.
about the structure of the league. Kind of you've got multiple teams, multiple people. It's growing, expanding like crazy. What were those early lessons that you learned, but you didn't really realize were going to come into play until you got bigger?
Yeah, I think the pitfalls of trying to include so many people in sort of your vision or your dream is that is that often what you want out of it and what other people want out of it are not the same thing. And in an effort to try and make everyone happy, you end up sort of losing your dream. But then at the same time, when you try to make other people live your dream, they don't like that either, right? So it's an evolution of how do I ensure that the product is what I envisioned from the beginning, but how do I also maintain this sort of community and this camaraderie with teams and people and relationships, and to keep them enthusiastic over ultimately the dream in which you are driving forward, right? And that has been a very challenging balance over the years. And at times you think, oh, everybody's on board, but that's only what they say, right? And so you don't really know. And then you realize, oh, everybody's not on board, but it's too late, right? The damage has already been done, and so you're kind of having to pick up the pieces. And then there are other times where you say, okay, I understand that you're not on board, but here's why you should be on board. And then you get into that sort of salesman pitch, type of stuff that is critical and needed in a company when you're trying to drive the bus forward. And so that really, that dynamic is really the business. Sometimes you think a business is something, right? You think that you are something, but you're really not that, right? You're really, at first I thought, well, I'm a football league. No, I'm not a football league, right? I'm an entertainment company. The goal is to entertain. I'm a content creator. People are looking for content. But to be an entertainer, you also, like, for example, if you're the ringleader of a circus, you can't just walk out there alone in a circle and entertain people. You need the circus. And so in order to have the circus, you need to make sure that the people in your circus are happy, that they feel supported, that they're feeling financially and emotionally compensated, and that they are in it, right? That they want to keep going and that they want to keep doing it. So you're managing burnout, you're managing emotional distress, you're managing someone that is 0-6 and feels like it's not fun anymore. And you have to remind them, well, it's not fun because you're not winning. But remember the winning, it was fun then, right? So what exactly is not fun, and trying to nail that down with people. So, it's a constant battle in continuing to evolve without devolving. And that's the beauty and the pitfalls of what goes on in any company, I think.
I think there's a couple great points in there. I think one of them, you talk about sports being an entertainment company, not about sports, right? It's not about the sport itself. It's about the entertainment value that you're providing. That's your true value proposition. I read an article where we were talking about popular companies and what their true value is. For instance, a McDonald's is not about the burgers; it's about the real estate it sits on, right? They are a real estate company. They are not a fast food organization. Coke, right? Coca-Cola or Pepsi, or take your soda manufacturer, right? What are they about? They're not about providing the soda. They're about distribution and distribution channels. Same thing with an Amazon. Amazon is not a retailer. Amazon is a logistics company, right? So getting to that true nature of what your organization is and being able to drill down to that. Actually, now that I think about it, it was actually an Alex Hormozy thing. It might have been on one of his podcasts where he's talking about that very thing, about getting to figure out what your true value proposition is and what you do well, and relaying to your customers and to your employees in that manner, as opposed to something that you're not. The other thing about the sports and the entertainment is that your feedback comes from your personal feedback, comes not only from those being entertained, but very much so from the equivalent of what would be your employees, right? You don't have, it's not like corporate America where you have this hierarchy of employees per se. You've got a little of that maybe on the admin side, but on the actual performer side, on the quote unquote athlete side of this, right? You have to keep them happy as well. And they've all got suggestions and ideas. To your point, somebody who's 0-6, it's not like a retailer where, you buy a shirt that you're not happy with, you return it and you get a different one. He can't turn in his 0-6 and say, hey, can I have 5 wins, please? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So how do you structure that balance between the product that you're creating, the entertainment value of the product you're creating, and the fact that, well, in any given situation, half of those entertainers or half of those athletes are going to be disappointed?
You know, life is full of emotions, and sometimes you can mitigate perspective by talking with people, but I understand that I can't talk to everybody. And so you have to put the right people at the top of these teams and the top of these organizations that can help you frame that perspective for people. If they come in and tell people that the sky is falling, then all the players are going to think the sky is falling. But if they come into a locker room and they say, hey, fellas, it's just one game, shake it off, we're going to be okay, the players reciprocate that, right? And so I'm in the same boat in talking to staff or talking to team leaders, right? Look, I understand that you're down right now, but one game, one moment, one coaching move, one new person to come into your life could change the game, right? It could change your outlook, and so you have to figure out what is really driving your happiness, right? What makes you happy, and you need to find that and seek that in times when you're not happy. And a lot of times, players will get that message either from me or for their team, and they won't believe it, right? And they're too far. I say too far gone. It's very dramatic, right? But they're just so down into the negative, right, that they can't climb their way out. And so what happens is that they leave. But I think many people quickly realize, wait, this wasn't about the wins and losses. I miss the people. I miss the conversation. I miss the entertainment of what's going on around here, right? The arguments, the controversial topics on shows, all that stuff, and they miss it. And so then they end up coming back. And they may not have necessarily realized at the time what this company is, but eventually they got there, right? And they kind of understood, look, the games are just what creates the storyline and the entertainment, but the true value in the company is not the games themselves. It's everything that we surround ourselves with, the immersive world. So everybody's a different challenge. I'm sure any CEO out there that has a bunch of employees would probably say, look, I can't lay things out to person A like I can to person B, because person A is not going to be able to handle it, or not going to be able to take it in the way that I need them to take it. And so I have to understand who the people are, and how to communicate with them, and how to talk with them, and how to get the best out of them, not only for me, but for themselves as well. And that's a mega challenge. But ultimately you just stick with your longevity. You're always going to be there. That if they fall off, that they might come back, as long as you're still there. Right? If you stop doing it, then they'll never get a chance to come back. But if you're still here, then you can always send the message of, hey, take some time. We'll be here when you get back. Right? So not being overreactionary is key too. If I come in and say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, everyone's going to think that. So you got to keep a level head about things.
Well, and I think you hit on another point, which is utilizing that middle management tier, right? For you, those team leaders are the ones who are kind of your middle management tier. right? And your conduit to getting messages to the players themselves. As I've worked with organizations over the years and taught them how to manage change, one of the things we've found is that all communications in an organization, and any staff level person, whether it be a player, whether it be somebody straight out of college, anybody at kind of that staff level, and really anybody in an organization is going to listen to two individuals. They're going to listen to their supervisor, certainly, right? In your case, players listen to team leads. In a corporate environment, a staff level individual might listen to a supervisor or their own team lead. But they also listen to kind of the leader of the organization, who they deem to be kind of that sponsor for the organization. Who is the head of my department? Who's the CEO? Who's the C level that's over my part of the organization, et cetera. And those are the two voices, right? The other voices, often they're colleagues or HR, or, project management roles or administrative roles. They don't listen to those. They listen to the supervisor and they listen to their sponsor. I think that's critical for people to understand, because as a leader of an organization, you need to realize half of your messaging has to go through those supervisors, right? Some of the things I say, I need to say it, but it needs to be echoed by those team leads. Those players need to hear it from the team leads as well.
Right. And the difference in the SFL is that middle management are my just biggest supporters, my biggest customers. Yeah. And so imagine the person that comes into McDonald's every day, that eats because they love McDonald's. Imagine the general manager of that location coming up to that customer and saying, could you encourage them to flip burgers more passionately? And the customer's like, excuse me? And so for a long time, I balked at the idea that could or should be a thing, until they started coming to me and saying, look, we are so passionate about this that we do want to help in that mission. And sometimes people help in the ways you want to help, and sometimes people help in the ways they think is best to help, and it doesn't always coexist. But that's the challenge, and that's what makes the business so interesting, so unique. And when it's successful, can really drive passion in a way that's unmatched in any company, because those biggest supporters are so involved.
So it's interesting, and we could go down this rabbit hole and talk about this for quite a while, but you've got all these complications with any single league. What drove you to start a second and now even a third league?
Yeah, I mean, the UFL on my shirt, right, is our next creation. Our second league was we call it the SFLM, the minors. Yep. And that was just really an extension of, we have too many bodies. We need something for these people to do, because when you're buried on a depth chart, you're just not getting a lot of action. And so it was really just a pure supply and demand push, to where at the time that we created it, we felt like we really couldn't expand vertically. There were too many challenges. When you add more teams, you add more games, you add more casters, you add more management, you add more people, and emotional distress and all that stuff. I mean, you just add on top of it, and we just weren't ready for that. So we said, okay, let's grow horizontally and push this to be more of a year-round product, so that everybody's kind of getting a piece of the pie. The third league was entirely an entirely different idea, and I didn't know exactly which direction we were going to go until I met my business partner. But I think the number one thought behind we need to do something else is that the SFL business model is very fragile. It's just a lot of emotions. It's a lot of people management. It's a lot of people in between the regular customer and the upper management, and it's not necessarily a tinderbox. It's not necessarily a house of cards. I would call it a house of cards with tape. It's not going to fall over. But if someone pulls on that piece of tape, well, then maybe it might fall over, right? So just trying to solidify our entertainment company in a little bit more of a risk-averse business model helps us to have a little bit more comfort in, okay, If anything were to blow up someday, there's certainly a way to continue on. It's sort of like having the codes to the nukes, right? No one ever wants to use them, but we've got them in case we need them, and that adds a little level of comfort every day when you wake up and you say, okay, this is just what we do now. We just have a bunch of football leagues and we just make a bunch of football content. This is just who we are, and it really doesn't matter what league. We're just gonna put out the best product we can, and so it's easier going to bed and waking up every morning at this point, Russ.
I like it. Anything we can do to let you sleep easier. The interesting part about that is you get an opportunity to kind of start from scratch, right? As you said, the SFLM, that's kind of an offshoot of the original, so it's going to be very much in the same vein as the original. Here you have an opportunity. You've had an opportunity, especially with an infusion of a partner in this league, is I can do things different. I can make some changes. What did you do with the UFL that you learned along the way with the SFL?
Well, I think the first thing was that we need to take advantage of our advantages. Very often the SFL, early on, I don't think we knew what our advantages were, right? The advantage of the SFL was that we had built this massive group of broadcasters who we gave a shot to, right? Most of them started never calling a game before, but they loved the SFL and they thought it would be, neat. They listened to the NFL on TV. They listen to their famous sportscasters and they say, wow, man, that guy is just so good. I want to do that, right? And so often in sports, just in all the years of me working in sports media, there's not a lot of football opportunities in broadcasting. So much is eaten up by national networks, Learfield IMG, all the ESPN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. It's also very big. Whereas in other sports, they live stream on Twitch or they are on FS2 and they are responsible for their own production costs and things like that. And so in those places, you're able to sort of hire your own people and get them involved and maybe you find a diamond in the rough and you say, hey, we need some help. Football is too big for a lot of that. And so we're one of the few places where someone can just come off the street and start calling games because we have so much content. We can give people plenty of reps and train them and build them up into something. And we've had multiple broadcasters, come through and are now working professionally as broadcasters. And so, so that was always a big strength and advantage to the SFL, and so that's a pride point for us. The customization of teams and people having a blank canvas to kind of do whatever they want is advantage of the SFL. Obviously, the coaching element and getting kind of your hands on scouting and seeing what your opponent likes to do and all the intricacies behind how these games come to be. That's the SFL strength. So in starting the second league, we said, well, what are our strengths here? What can we do differently here? And one of the strengths is, well, it's just a newer product. It's a more polished product. It's a more elegant product. We don't have as much infrastructure,
right,
and we don't have much history as the other league, but we can sell something that looks really good. We can get people involved in something that when they look at it on their big screen TV, they go, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. How this all came together. And so that was a strength. And then another strength is just simply, hey, there's 1,200 players available. Take your pick, right? A lot of people in the SFL have been waiting for years to become a quarterback or to become a starter on a team. And now all of a sudden there's an opportunity to be one of the best players in the league. And it may not be in the SFL, but it's somewhere else, and it's by the makers of the
Yeah,
SFL, and it's got to be good, right? And that's sort of the mindset. So you take that beauty and you take that opportunity, and you say, look, these are our advantages. We're going to lean on them. Beauty and opportunity. This is what we're selling, in 2025, and we'll see what we're selling in 2026. Maybe it changes and evolves as it gets more popular. And again, we're left to pivot and find where it all fits in. We know what the SFL's strengths are. Now we're looking for different strengths in the other league, because I'm not looking to cannibalize myself. You're trying to grow horizontally in a way that you can also grow vertically from it as well. Sure. And so we're just super excited at getting to do something fresh. And as someone that is by nature someone that likes to dream and create and do new things, it's been a long time since I've done a new thing. And so as a kid, Russ, just to dive into the psyche for just a
sure.
second. As a kid, your attention span, you just can't, you're always looking for something better. And so from the ages of, 10 to 19, I'm just starting stuff and quitting stuff all the time, because it's just not good enough. And so you're doing all this creative stuff, and you have an outlet for it. And then all of a sudden you hit on something and it works. And now you're left to manage what you've built. Mm-hmm. And for 12 years, you're not necessarily creating anymore. Everyone else is creating, right? All my teams are creating uniforms. They're creating game plans. All of our broadcasters are creating personalities for themselves. But I'm not really creating anything. And so this was a great outlet to have a chance to, build something new, but in a responsible way that helped my company. So best of both worlds on all those fronts. Happy to be out of the starting and quitting phase of life, but happy to be back in the creative phase as well.
Well, and that's by nature, that's part of the entrepreneurial mind, right? I can do things better. I can do things different. I can improve on them. If only I could do this over, if I could start this over, if I could do this differently. The entrepreneurial mind is constantly thinking of that stuff. Many of the people that I work with and coach, they'll come to me with a handful of different ideas. And part of the coaching process is getting them focused on the top two or three, and at least creating a map, kind of a path to get from where we are to, the first idea to the second to the third and to the fourth. Mm-hmm. And I think you coach yourself through that process of, okay, I need to focus on this for 12 years. And now I've got a blueprint. Now I know what I can do differently next time. Now it won't take another 12 years to get to league number 4, right? Or to 5 or 6 or et cetera. Because you're starting to lay the blueprint. And as long as there's that demand, as long as you have, the guard that really would love to play quarterback, that has the talent and the know-how to do so, you've got a new league for him, right? And so it'll be good to see some of that evolution on how you go from the leagues that you have to adding in this next one, and then who knows from there. So I like that. Talk to me a little bit about putting the product out there. In professional sports, a lot of times you have a team owner and a team structure within any one of these teams. I'm in Vegas. Right up the road from me is the Raiders facility. They've got team owners, they've got team admins and structure, and marketing teams that are out doing everything for the team. How does that work in your league? Do your team leaders, are they responsible for promoting and getting following for their own team, or do you do that as a league?
I wish.
Yeah.
It's going back to that whole middle management thing. It's really difficult to make a customer passionate about what you'd be passionate about, right? If I own that team, that's what I'd be doing, but I don't own that team, and I can't make you do it, right? I can't make you go out there and promote your team. And a lot of what I found is that people don't necessarily want to share their thing with other people like I want to share my thing with other people. It helps me because it helps my company, and I'm an extrovert, at heart. But for other people, it's not really why they're in it. And so you have to really you have to really think about what the business is, and ultimately what the business is something that you do online. And so, you know, for example, I had a person on YouTube comment today, hey, you know, awesome highlights, watch all the time. I'm from the UK, you know, please put a team in London. And I think to myself, I wish I could put a team in London right now for you. But I don't place teams. But I can't do that because it's not how the league works. Someone else has to put a team in London. They have to want to be in London. Because if I just create a London team with London branding and I ask people, hey, come be a part of this passionate London team that I'm passionate about, they won't be passionate about it, because it's not their thing, right? And so the team leaders have to want it. They have to want their city, want their brand, want their name, you know. And I might not necessarily be passionate about what they want in their brand, and they might come to me with their brand, and they might say, this is what I want to do. And I think to myself, that's weird. Why would you want to do that? Of all the things that that you could brand this team, you want to brand it like that? But if they're passionate about it, right, that's gonna drive them forward. You know, you've in talking about how teams promote themselves and how it works as a league. It really is. You just have to perfect your product online, so that when people do find you, they can find a passion in it as well. It's really unique in the way that you're just working on algorithms and working on keywords and hashtags and recommended videos and just being around and existing and trying to, you know, doing a little social media marketing here and there and just trying to find your fit. On the UFL side, I pitched to my business partner kind of a radical marketing idea, and hopefully we're successful enough, you know, on our first go to give it a go. But I told him, I said, look, we need to find the most trafficked cities at 5 p.m. or trafficked intersections or roads, right? And we need to find electronic billboards on those roads. And for an hour every day during peak traffic time, we need to put on a billboard of all 32 of our cities, a cutout of one of our awesome looking, right, beautiful players. And we need to put traffic sucks, make a football player instead. Because it's just so weird, right? And just put the website on there. And it's just, when you're sitting in traffic and you're just kind of miserable, well, we want to make you happy. We want to give you an entertainment product that's going to be interesting. And I think if people saw that their hometown had a team, and that their team looked really cool, they're going to at least go make a football player. What does that even mean? And maybe they'll go home and go to the website and right, see the interest in it. Because, hey, if it's only an hour a day, you know how those electronic billboards work. I mean, you're dropping a nickel, a dime every time, you know, your ad plays, and you're just trying to get that person that's on their way home from work, about to sit down and figure out what they're going to do for fun. And so, you know, in the SFL, I wouldn't necessarily do that because all the teams own their, or all the teams are individually owned and operated, right? And I'm not, I don't necessarily know who's going to be there in 6 months or a year or whatever. But in the UFL, we've got our teams, we have our league. None of those teams are going anywhere, and you know, you can try to start to build a base. So the marketing side of things is always interesting, always a unique challenge. But hopefully in the coming years, we'll be able to kind of get the blueprint for that as well, as we, you know, struggle to figure out just exactly how to reach customers on this wonky idea of participating in the product that you're watching. It's still a challenge for us to this day because still out there in the market on television, if you scroll through every channel, every OTT platform, every sports network, there's not a single thing that engages the viewer and makes it about them. Not one. We're still the one. And while that makes us unique, it also makes us a challenge to market, because you're marketing, you have to educate the audience as well. Like, no, we actually want to make it about you. The TV viewing audience is not used to that.
Well, and I think that's where this marriage of the esports and the video game universe kind of matches up to watching live sports, right? It's kind of that partial participation, partial watching, and it's different. That's part of the reason why I love having you on here. And you and I have been talking for a couple of years, because when I first talked to you, it was something I'd never seen before, and it was such a unique idea and an approach to it. And to have you come on and talk about some of these things, I hope this gets you some exposure. I hope people start paying attention, because even just having live broadcasters of a simulated football game, it's unique, it's different, and the play-by-play, and then your summaries of the games that took place during the week that come out on a regular basis. The tournaments that that you have at the end of the year, to the equivalent of playoffs that you have at the end of the year, that people get to watch and start buying into and get excited the closer they get to a championship. It's unreal. Now you do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just in regards to how it sort of comes to life. We just had a game last night. And of course, last night, it's terrible podcast language.
Sure.
We just had a game in late January, and it was the Florida Storm, who've been in our league for, probably 9 years, right? They won the season 21 and season 22 championships, and Mexico City, who's been around in the same amount of time, about 9 years, they won the season 23 championship. Our last three champions, okay, right, playing each other in season 24 on the field last night. It was the 250th game in the franchise for Mexico City. So they celebrated that with a patch at midfield, a 250th game patch, right? And so that was really great. Well, you've got these champions with all this pedigree. You have all these players who have been inducted in the Hall of Fame but are still playing, because we're celebrating their achievements still. And you just have all these household names, and you have all these people watching. And we're going up against the national championship game of college football. And it's just kind of like, what's going on, right? Well, we started getting viewership after people realized that game was a snooze fest. Mm. And they came to our game, and it was 20-20 with 2 minutes to go. And Mexico City drives all the way down the field, and they score with about 12 seconds left on a one-handed touchdown catch. And both of those players got a $1 million bonus to their, it's not actual money, sure, but to their players, to make their players better. And that's the highest bonus that you can get by scoring a game-winning touchdown in the last 2 minutes, because it's not something that is normally happens, right? And so there's all this stuff on the line, and there's this great game and these great storylines, but that only happens because we've existed for so long, and that's what makes the product special, because it has that history, and it has something that can attach people to it. So just a little idea of how it could possibly come to life, because a lot of people, they say what you said, right? We've got a simulated football game. I can't believe you actually have a play-by-play, an analyst calling this game, and they sound really good, right? They've had a lot of reps, they've had a lot of time.
Terrific.
We have a lot of resources for them to be good. You think about all the media notes that broadcasters receive from a little idea of how it could possibly come to life, because a lot of people, they say what you said, right? We've got a simulated football game. I can't believe you actually have a play-by-play, an analyst calling this game, and they sound really
Yeah.
good, right? They've had a lot of
Yeah, I've
reps. They've
listened
had a
to a
lot of
couple. They're
time.
terrific.
We have a Right. We have a lot of resources for them to be good. You think about all the media notes that broadcasters receive
Yep.
from sports information people and director of communications and stuff. Well, we have the same thing too. And so all of our broadcasters are getting all this information and all this stuff. And people don't understand how in the world this could possibly exist in this way. But because of what all the teams have been through, because of the history, the legacy, the storylines that have been created over time, that certainly helps.
Cameron, I thank you for your time. It's been a wonderful discussion. I think we'll close it there.
Thank you, Russ, for having me. I really appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Legacy Unscripted. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't just let it sit. Take action today to build your future. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. If you've got a story to share, or if you want to connect, you know where to find me. And until next time, keep it real, keep it bold, and keep living your legacy. Goodbye.